Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to all in this session. We have gathered here today for gaining insights into a topic very relevant to all those who deal with money matters. But before we begin, let me invite all of you to join hands and listen to a prayer that leads to peace within. Prayer is an amazing privilege. It can move the heart of God and initiate positive outcomes. Please play the college prayer, Pratiksha.
ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामया सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ अस्तो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः.
Thank you. When we start earning, the biggest question in front of us is to keep that money safe and growing. Investing is a way to set aside money while you're busy with life and have that money work for you so that you can fully reap the rewards of your labor in the future. Investing, in that case, is a means to happier endings. Legendary investor Warren Buffett defines investing as the process of laying out money now to receive more money in the future. The goal of investing is to put your money to work in one or more types of investment vehicles in the hopes of growing your money over time. Before you commit your money, you need to have some basic knowledge about the where and how of investment. We have invited an expert who can guide you through this dilemma of dealing with basic money matters. I request Asfia to introduce us to our resource person for today's session, Professor Mugu.
Thank you, ma'am. Good afternoon, everyone. It is with immense pleasure that I introduce to you our resource person for today, Mr. Amod Gothoskar. Mr. Amod Gothoskar has a PGDM in Finance and Marketing with more than 11 years of industry and training experience. He has conducted more than 265 financial literacy training programs across over 10 states, primarily for the financial literacy of the deprived classes of society, such as sex workers, lower cadre public servants, as well as students, parents, teaching and non-teaching staff of various schools and colleges. He has been a trainer for the financial literacy course for engineering students funded through Technical Education Quality Improvement Program, and for the Enhancing Engineers Employability course funded through Prerna Scheme of All India Council for Technical Education. He has been a resource person for the Commodities Derivatives Awareness Program conducted under the banner of Investor Protection and Education Fund of the Securities and Exchange, and a resource person for the Investors Awareness Program conducted under the banner of Investors Protection Fund of National Stock Exchange and Bombay Stock Exchange. He has also given guest lectures conducted at business schools like SIIB in Pune, Sydenham Institute of Management Studies, and KJ Somaya Institute of Management Studies and Research in Mumbai. Associated for certain key roles with more than 25 educational institutions across India, he has acted as team advisor for the Narsi Monji College team for international competitions held in the year 2015 in USA and Australia, with the team securing a worldwide rank and semi-finalist position respectively. He is the trustee and treasurer of Deep Urchin Charitable Trust for enabling individuals, groups, and organizations in problem solving. He is also a trainer cum organizer for beginner and advanced photography workshops and nature and wildlife photography tours. Sir, we are truly humbled to have you with us today.
Over to you, sir, for conducting the session.
Okay, thanks a lot. I'll just share the screen for the presentation that we'll be using. Kindly confirm if the screen is visible.
Yes, it is visible.
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, a very good afternoon to all of you. And first of all, thanks a lot to the entire college management for having this session put together for the students who are going to be prospective teachers and also prospective investors. So to begin with, I would just request all of you to please be on mute so that there's no disturbance during the session. And if you want, you can switch off your camera so that you can save on data. And at the end of the session, if you have any questions or anything you want to ask, we'll be taking a question and answer session at the end. So kindly don't ask any questions in between because we will be having the session first, and then at the end, we will take your questions. Also, side by side, we will be having a chat session also, as in a chat box is also there in the Zoom app. By now, most of you are already quite aware about it. So whatever responses or whatever questions that I asked during the session, you can give your answers, your responses in the chat box. So to begin with, first of all, once again, a very warm welcome to all of you, and thank you to the college team and especially to you, ma'am, for having this session put together for you all. Because as a session, if you see, this is called as an investors awareness program. So probably a question may come to your mind as the participants today, most of you are students. So some of you may think, sir, we are students, so why is this program for us? This is investors awareness program. So point is, this is not only for current or present investors, but also, as I said, for prospective or future investors. And that's exactly where you all are going to be. So to begin with, my first question to all of you is, as I said, be on mute, answers in the chat box. So first question is, why are you studying? Whatever course that you're doing, why are you studying? What is the reason? What is the objective for you to study? I repeat, I want the answers in the chat box. Kindly remain on mute and answer to the question to be given in the chat box. So let me see your answers. Why are you studying? What is the objective for you to study? Let us see your answers in the chat box. Okay, so I have the first answer, first response, for earning income to fulfill all the needs. Okay, financial independence, to wisely invest money. Okay, any other answers? Okay, for employment and self-development. Okay, good. Anything else? Fulfilling needs, future savings. Okay, just take one or two last responses if they are coming in the next 10 seconds. Okay, for attaining our identity. Okay, fair enough. So the basic answer, planning for future life. Okay, so the basic answer is that you want to earn money. Ultimately, we want knowledge, we want academic experience, we want qualification, we want financial independence. Everything is agreed, absolutely right. But point is, we want to earn money out of it. Why do you want to earn money is not a question that I will be asking, because of course we are going to have a lot of expenses. And these expenses that we are going to have are typically going to be of two main types. That is, on one side, we are going to have an income, of course, and on the other side, we are going to have an expense. And as I said, these expenses are going to be of two main types. So the first is going to be the primary expense, roti, kapada, or makan. That is nothing else but food, clothing, and shelter. which is going to be common for most of us as human beings, primary needs or basic needs of human beings. And on the other side, we are also going to have expenses which probably are going to be different in terms of priorities, which is what we call as financial goals. So about financial goals also I will be talking about after some time during the session. But yes, these financial goals may be different for different people or different human beings. But ultimately, these are the two main things. I repeat, primary needs, basic needs, and financial goals, which ultimately lead us to spending our money. So now these expenses which are going to be incurred are typically we are going to incur for living our life. And now a question probably may come to you, sir, are these the only two things that are going to happen, as in income and expense? Or along with this, we have to do something else also? Yes, you have to do a very, very important thing, which is what we call as savings. Because many a times what we do is, when we get money in our hands in the form of our income, what we do is we try to spend it. हाथ में पैसा आया, spend कर दिया, खर्च कर दिया. But ultimately then what happens is we say कि अगर पैसा बचेगा then I will save. But many a times what happens is whatever money we get, we ultimately end up spending everything many a times, most of us, and ultimately there is no saving. So rather than doing it this way, that is first spending and then savings, rather than doing this, it is better to go the other way. That is, try to save first, or if not save directly, at least keep that money aside for your saving and then move towards your spending. Now, what is the advantage here is, as you have already kept some money aside for your saving, हाथ में कम पैसा बचेगा. That is, you will have less amount of money left with you, and which ultimately will lead you to only spend on things which are very, very essential, or rather very, very necessary for you to live your life. And that is exactly why we say that rather than spending first, you should save first. So try to remember this, to prioritize on savings rather than spending. And now the second question for you all is, when I say that assuming your earning or your income is 100%, how much out of 100% income should you save? Your answers should be in percentage. I repeat, if your income is 100%, how much from 100% income should you save? Answers should be in percentage. Let me see your answers in the chat box. Kindly be interactive, kindly type your responses, because we are using a technological platform. We are not able to actually conduct a classroom session. So chat box is the best way during the session for us to communicate. Okay, so I can see a lot of answers in the chat box. Good. So currently I see a range of 20 to around 60%, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60. That's generally the range that I'm getting, to 20 to 60. Anyone else? Any other answers below 20 or above 60? Anybody? You're typing savings from income of 100%. Okay, so the correct answer here is also incidentally the last response that I've got. 40% is the correct answer, because typically when you talk about savings, savings are going to be used for building a corpus also later on, which is also I'm going to talk in the next slide. But point is, you should save at least 40%. Now some may say, sir, 40% is very huge. I will not be able to save 40%. So what should I do? If not 40, you can start with 5, you can start with 10, 20, 30, but try to reach. So आपके जीवन का लक्ष्य क्या है? What is your objective? Is to reach 40% savings. And now the question comes, what are you going to do with that 40%? So 40% is going to be utilized for your future needs. And if you do it correctly, you will be able to experience the joy of financial freedom, or also called as financial independence, which is nothing else but, in simple words, rather than being dependent on somebody else for your future needs or your future expenses, it is better to save money from your own income slowly and gradually, and ultimately use that money in the future for your needs which are going to come. And now comes the question, is only saving going to be enough? Because I said 40% you should save, but is 40% saving, only saving, going to be enough? The answer is no. Because if you save 40, the value of the 40 will remain 40, it will not increase. But what we want is actually the value of that saving should increase with the period of time. And for which, what you should be doing most importantly is investing that money. Investing, in simple words, is deploying that money or utilizing that money in such a way that it is going to help you for your future needs. But before you move to investments, you should do something else actually before investing. And that is something that as a child, most of us have already experienced it. So I want to know your experience. And the question is, have you experienced as a child, small child, have you experienced the concept of a piggy bank? If you have experienced it, just type PB as in piggy bank in the chat box so that I know. Don't type yes, type PB as in piggy bank. So I know that you've gone through that experience. Let me see how many of you have gone through that experience. Okay. Kindly be responsive in the chat box, because giving the response is indirectly a communication that we are having, an interaction that we are having, and which will make a quality session for all of us. Okay, great. So I can see a lot of you have typed in PB as in you have experienced the concept of a piggy bank. So let's get into the concept. Many of us have already experienced it, but let me just run through what is a piggy bank. So as a child, to inculcate the habit of savings in us as a child, our elders, our parents, our grandmother, grandfather, uncle, aunt, elder brother, sister, whoever was elder to us, gifted us or gave us a small box having a face of a pig. So it was called as a piggy bank. And why bank? Because it was helping us to inculcate the habit of savings. Because as a child, we did not know what saving was. So what we used to do is, whatever money that we used to get as a child, of course, not as an income, but usually what used to happen was, as blessings, some elders would gift us some money, which could be either in the way of, you can say, coins, currency coins, or currency notes. And usually they used to gift us at some occasion, be it a birthday or somebody's anniversary or some marriage or some festival, and so on and so forth. So that money that we used to get, of course, we had a very, very possessive feeling about it. कि ये मेरा पैसा है, मैं ये कहीं पे छुपा के बचा के रखूंगा. That is what we used to have. So what we used to do is, when we used to get that money, we used to just hide it somewhere. But to inculcate the habit of a proper saving, what we then started to do was, that box was with us. So we used to put the money in the box. And that box, we used to hide it somewhere. Why hide? Because वो possession का possessive feeling होती थी. So we used to hide it somewhere. But now, as an adult, that same concept of a piggy bank, you have to duplicate, but not as a piggy bank, but as an emergency fund. So before you actually go on to invest your money, keep some money aside for your emergencies. Emergency, the best way to explain it today is COVID. Nobody had actually even thought, let's go back to February 2020 or early March 2020, किसी ने ये सोचा भी नहीं था कि कोविड जैसी कोई सिचुएशन या कोरोना वायरस नाम की कोई चीज आके सडनली सभी के लाइफ में एंट्री मार देगी. Nobody had thought. And due to which there were so many things that changed for us. As a person, we faced so many regulations. Some of us may have also lost jobs. Some of you or some of us have been working on salary cuts. We have started using technological platforms like Zoom today, what we are using. Some of us may unfortunately have lost some of our loved ones, and so on and so forth. So many changes that happened because of this. And one simple thing that I can tell you here is, of course, we have given a very tough fight to it, and we're still fighting it out through whatever regulations that we are facing, whatever vaccinations that we have been taking, and so on and so forth. All these things are going simultaneously. But as a matter of fact, we need to remember that this is a situation of an emergency. And as I said, if in such a situation, if any of us would have probably lost a job or probably would have worked on salary cuts, then where is the money that you are going to get from? So that money, we could have used it from a concept which was an emergency fund. And that is why you should plan for your emergencies and you should be planning for your contingencies. Now, what should you do in such a case? A very simple thing to be done here is to maintain a piggy bank kind of a thing, but now we don't call it as a piggy bank, but we call it as an emergency or a contingency fund. In simple words, just like we used to save money in the form of cash in a piggy bank, similarly, you have to save it in an emergency fund. Please remember not to invest that money anywhere, because emergency, as the word itself says, can come at any point of time. And so we should be absolutely ready for it. That is, if we need some money, immediately we should be able to get it. If we invest that money, then chances are we would take some time to at least convert it into cash. But that emergency, will it give time to us for that or not? We don't know. And that is why we should have the money in the form of cash, just like we had it in the piggy bank. Next thing is, you should hide that money somewhere, just like we used to do in a piggy bank. Why? Because this money can also be stolen by a thief or anybody else. So point is, keep it hidden somewhere in some nook and corner of your houses, so that whenever you need that money, you can use it. But also you're protecting it from theft also. Wherever you want, whichever corner, as far as possible, don't keep it in your locker or your cupboard, because that's the first place where the thief will go and check. So better is to hide it somewhere else. And also, most importantly, wherever you're hiding it, please inform all your family members about it, because you don't know who is going to face the emergency. Is it going to be an individual from your family, or is it going to be the entire family? We don't know. So point is, you should inform wherever you have kept that money, so whoever is available at that time can immediately take it out from whichever place it is and can be utilized for the emergency. So that is what you always need to remember. And I repeat, this is exactly similar to a piggy bank, but in a different format. That's all. And now comes the most important thing about emergency fund is the size. The size of this, or the corpus of this emergency fund, should be a minimum of at least 3 times of your income, that is monthly income, or 6, that is maximum 6 to 9 months of your income. I repeat, minimum is 3 months of your income and maximum is 6 to 9 months of your income. And of course, as it is such a huge size, if you see 3 months of or 6 to 9 months of your income, it is definitely not going to happen in a day. It may take months or sometimes even years for you to have that together. But don't worry, slowly and gradually start building this corpus and have that thing in your mind that you have this as one of your financial goals. As I said at the beginning of the session, financial goals for everybody may be different. So should emergency fund be a part of your financial goal or not is of course left to you as an individual. But if you ask me, it's better to have it, because as I said, emergencies most of the times we will be facing sometime or the other in our life. So better is to be prepared for it. So before you move to investments, I repeat, this is how you should be planning for your emergencies. So if you have understood this concept of emergency fund correctly, kindly type EF in the chat box, EF as an emergency fund. So I know that you've got this concept correctly. Okay, good to see your responses. Good to see that you've understood this concept of emergency fund. Okay, nice. Others also, I hope, have understood it correctly, whoever have typed out. and others also who are a part of the session but have not yet typed it out. Okay, fair enough. Thank you. Now comes the next part, which is moving towards investments. So whenever you are doing any kind of investments, one basic thing that you always need to remember is there are two main types of investments. That is investments which offer you interest and investments which offer you returns. Now, what is the difference between the two? Interest is typically which is guaranteed in nature, whereas when you talk about returns, they are not guaranteed. In simple words, they may be positive also, which is profit, or they may sometimes negative also, which is loss. So you should be mentally prepared for losses also when you are talking about investments giving returns. Now, when you talk about interest also, many times people feel ki yes, I will invest in investment products which offer returns, which offer interest, and they are the safest, is what people feel. Yes, they are comparatively safe, but does it mean that you would not get losses out of it? Unfortunately, the answer is no, because there could also be a loss in that scenario because of the company not doing well, or the company going into extreme losses, or many a times in the recent times we see is frauds. So to be ready for such a concept, you also need to remember to diversify your investments. That is, whenever you are going to invest in any kind of product, better is that don't invest your entire money in one single thing. Diversify that investment over various products so that you will not suffer huge losses. Many a times people feel ki I will invest entire money in A, not in B, not in C. But then what happens if suddenly A goes down? Then your entire money is at a loss or at a risk. Better is diversified, spread it, invest it in a variety of products. So now let's start with the types of products. I'm going to talk about the popular products, which at least we all should be aware about it. So when you talk about interest, the three most popular products are fixed deposits, bonds, and debentures. So now what are fixed deposits, bonds, and debentures? So fixed deposits are where we save money and we invest that money in a bank, or rather deposit that money in a bank. And what does the bank give us is a FDR, which is a fixed deposit receipt. In simple words, bank tells us ki boss, you have invested this amount, you are going to get this amount of interest, and this is the period or the term of the investment, and that is printed on the receipt and given to us. Now, if you invest that same money in a public sector company, then it is called as a bond. Now, what is a public sector company? Is simply a company where general public is the promoter, I won't say promoter, you can say co-owner of that company, and that is why it is called as a public sector company. So if you invest that money in a public sector company, then it is a bond. And if that same money is invested in a private sector company, then it is called as a debenture. So I repeat, first difference is where did you invest the money? If it is a bank, fixed deposit, public sector company, bond, and private sector company, debenture. So now when you talk about the second difference, it is about the risk. As I said, all products, investment products, are going to have some or the other type of risk. And we should most importantly know how much is the risk. So if you compare these three products, low risk is in fixed deposits, medium risk is in bonds, and high risk is in debentures. So now we as an individual should understand first, how much risk do we want to take? And accordingly, then you should select the product. And third difference is the interest rate. Mind you, I'm talking about interest as the third point, not the first point, because we as Indians typically compare the interest first. Kitna milega? How much will we get? Is the first question that we ask. But please remember, let it come third, not first. Don't be in a hurry to just look at interest rates, because interest is going to increase with the risk. Higher the risk, it is automatically meaning that the risk and the interest is also going to be higher, because if risk is high, to compensate for the risk, the interest is also high. So always remember to check the risk and automatically the interest. And even if you see the interest, automatically also a bell should ring in your mind that if it is high interest, high risk, medium interest, medium risk, low interest, low risk. So similarly, when you talk about fixed deposits, it is low risk, which means the interest also will be low. On the other side, when you talk about bonds, medium risk, so interest also will be medium, a bit higher than fixed deposits. And the highest risk is in debentures, so the interest also will be higher than bonds, which is the highest now in debentures. So accordingly, you need to analyze individually how much risk do you want to take, and accordingly then only select the product. And also, I repeat, don't invest your entire money in one product, but rather diversify it or spread it, so that your risk also will be reduced or minimized. Please remember, we will not be able to eliminate the risk. We cannot make it zero. It's not possible for any of us. So what we can do is definitely we can try to reduce it by spreading or diversifying our investments. Now, some of you may say, sir, I want to take more risk than debentures. Then what should I do? Then you can move towards equity markets. Now, equity markets are typically where you invest in equity shares. So what is an equity share is what I will start from. Many of you probably may have heard this word also, which is an equity share, but what does it actually mean? Many of you may not know. So I'll just try to first give that understanding to you. So equity and share are actually two different words. When you value a company, let's see, a company's value is 300 crores. So 300 crores, the value is called as equity. And when I want to buy the company, rather than buying the entire company, because entire company is worth 300 crores, which is huge amount. So rather than buying that entire company, what we could do is we could buy one small part of that company's value or equity, and that smaller part is called as a share. So equity share is typically a small part of the total value of the company when we buy. That value can be as low as 1 rupee also, and it can be as high as thousands of rupees also, of course, depending on the total value of the company and how many shares is the company issuing. So to start with, please remember, when you want to invest in equity shares, the first thing very clear you should be knowing is this is comparatively high risk investment. So only, once again, as I say, if you are ready to take that risk, you should proceed. But if you are not ready, then you can look for alternatives. Let's say you are now ready to do the investment. So now you need to also open a specific account for it, which is called as a demat and a trading account. So demat and a trading account can be opened with brokers or sub-brokers, which are typically members or sub-members of the exchange, that is the stock exchange, something like the Bombay Stock Exchange or the National Stock Exchange. Now, once you open this account, these two accounts are actually two separate accounts, because demat account is typically a place or an account where your shares are going to be in the electronic form, and trading account is an account where your money is going to be, which you are going to use for buying and selling these securities. So this trading account is also going to be linked further to your savings bank account, which is going to be used to transfer the money from saving to trading or trading to saving, and so on and so forth. So that is why you should have these two accounts, and only then you could be able to participate in the equity markets. But now, all said and done, some of you may have a question now. Sir, okay, you've told us about equity shares, you've told us about bonds, debentures, but now the question is, my question is, which share to buy? Some may say, which bond should I invest in? Which debenture should I invest in? Some may say, sir, to get into this market, I should also know this market. Of course, studying, understanding the market is very, very important. So some of you may now say, sir, I am not an expert, I will not be able to do it. Some may also have a question, sir, okay, I know the markets a bit, I can try to study it more, but I don't have the time to do that. Then what should I do? So such questions are very commonly asked. And for these questions, there is one simple answer in the form of the next investment product, which is mutual funds. When you talk about these questions, if they cannot be answered by you individually, then rather you may take the help of an expert company. And this expert company is the mutual fund, where people like you who have these questions invest their money, The mutual fund company collects the money from all these people, all these investors, and further they hand over this money to the AMC, which is the asset management company. And this company has fund managers who are experts in these, you can say, answering these questions. That is, where to invest, how much to invest, how much time it should be invested in, and so on and so forth. So if you want to take the help of this expert, that is a mutual fund, then you can prefer for or go for these kind of schemes. Now, here also you have three main types of investments. That is, three main types of schemes in mutual funds. If you want your money to be invested in equity shares, as I said, you can do it directly also. But if you have those questions in your mind, then you may go for equity mutual fund schemes. Risk here is going to be high. If you want your investments to go into bonds, debentures, or similar products, as I said, you can do it directly also. But once again, if you have those questions in your mind, then you can go for debt or fixed income mutual fund schemes. Here, the risk is going to be low. And you can also take the combined benefit of both these types by investing in a third type, which is called as balanced or hybrid mutual fund schemes, where the risk is going to be medium. So depending upon the risk that you want to take, and as I said, higher the risk, higher is going to be the return, because rather than getting interest in equity markets and mutual funds, there is no interest, there are returns. And as I said, returns are not guaranteed. So you may suffer losses also in this. So be mentally prepared for it. And only if you are prepared, then you proceed. Otherwise, as I said, you can go for products comparatively safer, which are something like fixed deposits, bonds, or debentures. But once again, always analyze your individual risk appetite. That is how much risk you are able to take, and only then you should be investing into the respective products. Now, some of you may probably say that, sir, all this is fine, but should I invest in real estate properties? Is a question that some of you may have. So if you want to invest in real estate properties, okay, you can go ahead. But you need to remember one simple thing here. That is, real estate properties are, of course, a good investment, but the liquidity is low in this case. Now, what do you mean by liquidity? Whenever you want to sell any kind of an investment product, in how much time can you sell it? If you can sell it very fast, we say liquidity is high. Or if the time taken to sell it is longer comparatively, then we say that the liquidity is medium. And if it is very long, then we say that the liquidity is low. So comparatively, when you talk about real estate properties, the liquidity in this is very, very low. That is, many a times the time taken to sell real estate properties is comparatively higher, and so your money may get locked into this for a particular period of time, till the time, of course, it gets sold off. So you should be once again mentally ready for it, because money may get locked. That is the first thing. Second is, whenever you want to invest in real estate properties, please remember that you are buying it as an investment product. That is, you are not going to live there, but rather you are going to give it on rent to somebody. Many people feel that we should keep the property vacant, but please remember, when you are keeping the property vacant, you are actually not getting anything for a regular income from that. And so you should give it, or rather at least try to give it on rent. But also, while giving it on rent, do a proper background check of the person to whom you are giving it on rent, because there could be some frauds also in that. Also, try to register a proper agreement, which is called as a leave and license agreement. Do the proper registration by paying the stamp duty to the government authorities, so that if later on you go into any kind of problems regarding that transaction, then you can always go to the legal system of our country and ask for a complaint redressal. So try to do all these things correctly. And most importantly here, I would like to also tell you that whenever you are investing in real estate, also try to investment. I repeat, if you're investing, try to invest from your own savings rather than creating a liability for yourself. That is, When you say you want to take a loan, you are creating a liability for yourself because you are borrowing money from someone. And is it really necessary for you to borrow that money and buy the real estate property for investment? Is a question that you should be asking yourself. Mind you, I'm not talking about buying a property to live in that property. I'm talking as a second or a third home if you're buying it. Because if you're buying it to live in it, then it is not an investment. It is a primary or a basic need, which is shelter, food, clothing, shelter. But if you're talking about investment, then this question should be asked. That is all that I would want to inform you with regards to real estate as an investment product. Now, some of you may say, sir, I want to buy shares of real estate companies. That is also possible. You can buy it from the equity markets. Or alternatively, if you want to do it through mutual funds, you can invest in a category of mutual fund, which is called as infrastructure mutual funds, where investments would also go into shares of real estate companies. So that is also what you can do if you want to invest in shares of real estate companies. So all this is particularly the popular products or the popular investment that you can opt for. But I repeat, please analyze your risk first, then only move towards the respective investments. Now, if you have understood this concept correctly, kindly type asset, ASSET, in the chat box. Because when you say financial products, they are also called as financial assets. So please type asset so that I know that you have understood the concept correctly. Then we will move on to the next aspect. Okay, so I can see a lot of you typing asset. Others also, I assume, have got the concept correctly. Okay, good. Now, next thing that you need to understand is what all things you should be analyzing, as in what all factors you should be analyzing whenever you are going to invest. So one is, of course, the risk, which is what I already told you. But along with risk, you should also be analyzing some other concepts. The first thing that you should be analyzing after the risk is the tax that you might have to pay. Now, what is tax? The most popular tax that most of us know is income tax. What is income tax? Is whatever primary income that we earn. So if you say you are going to take a job, it is a salary. If you say you are going to become a professional, it's a professional income. If you say you want to do a business, that is become an entrepreneur, then it is your business income. So that's your primary income on which we pay income tax. But along with our primary income, as I said, we also are going to invest. So whatever we get from investments, let's say interest, all the interest put together is called as income from other sources, and on which you will have to also pay a tax. On the other side, if you get a profit, that is returns, profit, positive return from your investment, then you will have to pay a tax, which is called as capital gain tax. What is capital gain? Is profit. Now, you need to understand that in India, we follow a progressive taxation system. In simple words, higher income, higher tax is what we pay. So in India, we follow a financial year, which is from 1st April till 31st March next year. So in these 12 months, if our income is 2,50,000 rupees, then you don't have to pay any tax. But when it rises from 2,50,000 to 5 lakhs, you have to pay 5% tax. From 5 lakhs to 10 lakhs, you have to pay 20% tax. And if your income, that is your 12-month income, that is yearly income, is more than 10 lakhs, you have to pay 30% tax. Once again, progressive system. That is, higher the income, higher is the amount of tax that we pay. Now, along with this, as I said, if you get a capital gain, this capital gain or profit is divided into two types. One is short-term capital gain, which is any profit that you earn in 1 year from the date of investment. So if I buy some investment product and if I sell it before 1 year and I get a profit, it is short-term capital gain. And now in this case, I have to pay a 15% tax, 15% tax on the profit amount, that is on the capital gain amount. Many people here have a misconception that you have to pay the tax on the entire amount. That is, if I buy something at 100 and if I sell something at 125, my profit is 25 rupees. So tax has to be paid only on 25 rupees, not on entire 125 and neither on the 100 rupees, only on 25 rupees. That is what you always need to remember. So this is short term. And any investment that you have done and you have sold it after 1 year, till whatever n number of years, be it 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 50 years, whatever, then you have to pay 10% as your long-term capital gain tax. After 1 year is called as long-term, and you have to pay the tax at the rate of 10% on the profit, that is capital gain amount. But in this case, you have to remember that if you generate any long-term capital gain, which is only till 1 lakh rupees, then you don't have to pay any tax because it is exempted. In short, no tax to be paid on it. But if you get above 1 lakh rupees, then you have to pay an amount which is, as I said, 10% you have to pay on your capital gain amount. Please remember, this is long-term capital gain tax. So what do we understand from this topic in simple words is, no matter what income that we generate, we most of the times would have to pay some or the other type of tax on it. So we should always check what type of tax do we have to pay, and on the basis of that, you should plan your respective investments. If you have understood this topic, then I would request you to type tax, that is TAX, in the chat box so that I know and get your feedback about this particular topic. Any questions? As I said, we are going to take your questions at the end of the session. So please wait for that, for asking your questions. Okay, thanks a lot for your responses in the chat box. Now let's proceed to the other things that we should be knowing. So one is about the risk, what we checked. Second thing that you should check, as I just said, is about the tax. But along with this, you should also be knowing some other things. Now, in which we will talk about asset allocation. Now, what is asset allocation? Asset allocation typically means that whatever income that we are going to invest on the basis of our cash flow position. Now, what is cash flow position? Is simply our income, which is cash inflow, and on the other side, our expense, which is cash outflow. So on the basis of this, we are going to save and we are going to invest. But please remember, once again, as I said, don't first spend the money. First, keep the money aside for your saving and then only move towards your expenses. And whenever you are investing, as I said, to minimize the risk, try to invest your money or try to invest your whatever savings in a variety of, you can say, products, so that your risk is lowered or reduced, and which is exactly what we call as asset allocation. But at the time of doing this, as I said, also check for the liquidity part of the investment, what we discussed in real estate. Also check for the taxability, which is the tax part, as we just discussed just 2 minutes before this slide. And also try to understand the ease in which you can do this investment. Now, what is this ease? You can do the investments in two main types. One is you can do the investment in one single time, which is called as a lump sum investment. And second, you can also invest your money in installments, which is, let's take an example of mutual funds again. So when you're investing in mutual funds, you can also do an SIP. That is, SIP is called as a systematic investment plan. That is, rather than investing the entire amount at one go, you can systematically invest it on a monthly basis. And that is what we call as the ease of doing the investment. Either lump sum, which is one time, or alternatively the SIP route, which is the installment based method. Also, when you're doing this investment, check the transaction cost. Now, what is the transaction cost? In simple words, whenever you are going to have any kind of, you can say, investments, there could be some additional expenses that you might have to incur. These additional expenses could be something like brokerage, or something like commission that you might have to pay, or something like a service charge that you might have to pay, which is what we call as transaction cost. And along with transaction cost, you also need to check, most importantly, that whatever transactions you are doing, are they legal or not? Because many a times what may happen is we may face some problem regarding that transaction. And as I said, whenever you have any problem regarding that transaction, at that particular time, you may probably want to file a complaint with the legal authority, and for which the transaction should be legal and many a times also regulated. I'll take an example of a very popular product in most of the younger generation, which is cryptocurrencies. Many people ask me when I conduct these sessions, sir, should I invest in cryptocurrencies? Please understand, first of all, whenever first the concept of cryptocurrencies came into India, it was illegal. It was not legal. I repeat, it was illegal. But slowly and gradually, we made this product legal in the Indian markets. So if you ask me today, cryptocurrencies are legal, but they are considered to be unregulated products. Now, what do you mean by unregulated? Is there is not a regulatory authority for which cryptocurrencies would come under that. And which means if you face any problems regarding it, then you might not be able to get the correct solution to your problem. And that is why it is better to invest in products which are legal, one, of course, and second, it should as well as be regulated, so that immediately you can approach the legal authority and you can get the solution to your problem. Also, when you invest, try to remember to invest in a disciplined manner. Now, what is this disciplined manner? Is in simple words, invest at a regular interval. Something like, as I said, SIP, we do monthly. But is only monthly the option available? We can also do our investment. Some may say, I want to do it daily. Some may say weekly. Some may say fortnightly. Some may say quarterly. Monthly is the most popular option. But is it the only option? The answer is no. I gave you so many other options. So which option should I select is a question that many of us have. But please remember, whichever option you select, there is no problem, but try to stick to it. Don't suddenly change from A to B or B to C or C to D and so on and so forth. Try to stick to it, and most importantly, stick to it for a longer period of time. Now, why should you do it for a longer period of time is because in such a scenario, you would get the advantage of compounding. Now, what is this compounding? Compounding, in simple words, help the investment's value to increase at an exponential level. So exponential level is typically the value of it will keep on increasing. Why? Is because the interest that you get through compounding is not only on the principal amount, but also on the interest amount. Because every interval when you are going to get the interest, the first interest is going to be only on the principal, but the second interest is going to be on the principal as well as on the first interest. Similarly, the third interest is going to be on the principal, but as well as on the first interest and also on the second interest, and so on and so forth. So typically it is going to increase the value of your investments. And that is why compounding is also called as the eighth wonder in the world, in the field of finance, because it increases the value of the investment that you are making. And that is why you should always invest for a longer period of time. So if you see whatever points that I told you, starting from the concept of asset allocation, we spoke about taxation, we spoke about liquidity, we spoke about transaction cost, legality, regulated product, disciplined investment, and compounding. So all these things, always remember to check, always remember to analyze before you do any of your investments. So always do this in a very, very efficient way so that as far as possible, you would try to reduce the risk that is associated to your investments. And now we are moving to the last part of the session, which is what I'm going to tell you about the precautions that you should be taking during investments. And as we move to this part, I also want you all to now start filling up your attendance and feedback for today's session, and for which I have just shared the link, the Google form link in the chat box. So kindly please click on the link and start filling up your attendance and feedback. This link is only going to remain active for the next 10 minutes. I repeat, this link is going to remain active only for the next 10 minutes. That is till 3:45. So kindly please start filling up your attendance and feedback as we simultaneously go on to finish and complete our session. Please give your attendance and feedback through the link that I have shared in the chat box. And now the last part is the precautions that we must be taking. So as I said, if you're doing any of your investments through intermediaries, something like a broker or a sub-broker, let's say when we open our demat and trading account, try to ensure that these intermediaries are registered. That is, registered with the authority, something like registration with the exchange, registration with the regulator, and so on and so forth. Try to check their registration numbers on the respective websites, or alternatively on the documents that they may give to you. Also, whenever you do any transactions, always remember to collect the receipt for that transaction, because the receipt is very, very important as a evidence or as a proof for your transaction. So in capital markets, this receipt is called as contract note. And this is usually sent to you on email, that is in the electronic form or a soft copy, within 24 hours from the time of your transaction. So if you don't receive it, you can complain to the respective organization. And if not, you can complain to SEBI also. Who is SEBI here? SEBI is Securities and Exchange Board of India, which is the market regulator, that is capital markets regulator for the Indian markets. And they have provided a website, a dedicated website to give your complaints, which is called as SCORES, SCORES. The full form is SEBI Complaint Redressal System. So this SEBI Complaint Redressal System is also as a website and a mobile app, and you may use it to give your complaints after doing the necessary registration there on the website or the mobile app. Also, as I said, first you have to complain to the respective organization, that is wherever you face the complaint, and if they don't solve your complaint, then only you can move towards the SEBI website, which is the SCORES website or the mobile app. Also remember that whenever you are doing any transactions, try to study the respective transaction or the product before you do the investment. As I said, many a times what happens is we don't do our study correctly, and suddenly then we may face some problem because of it. That is, as I said, we may face losses. So rather than doing that, it is always better to understand the product and getting information about the product or the transaction. So now the question comes, where will we get the information? You can refer to the exchange websites or that company's website. You may read some newspapers, some magazines, some periodicals, or alternatively, you can get information through word of mouth also. That is your friends, your relatives, family, and so on and so forth. Also, we have so many social media platforms through which we can get the information, something like WhatsApp, Telegram, or Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, and so on and so forth. Please mind one thing before you take your decision, that whatever information that you have received or whatever information that you have collected, please check the authenticity or the correctness of that information. Because if you are going to take a decision, that is your investment decision, on the basis of that information, then it is very important that that information itself should be correct. Otherwise, once again, as I said, there is a chance that you may suffer losses because of it. So always check for the correctness of that information, because information, we will get a lot of information, but is it correct or not is very, very important. And most importantly, if you think, sir, I am not an expert, I will not be able to check it, no problem, ask experts. If you are not able to check the information for its correctness, you can ask experts, take their advice, their recommendation, their opinions, and then on the basis of that, you may take your respective decisions. Also, many a times we try to time the markets. We feel the market is rising, okay, so I should buy, or I will wait for the market to rise. Some may say, sir, market is falling, so I will sell, or I will wait for the market to fall. But please remember, don't try to time the markets. None of us are actually perfectionists. We are not 100% right every time. So there is always a possibility of an error or a possibility of a loss that we might face. So rather than timing the market, try to check why is the market falling or going to fall, or on the other side rising or going to rise, reason behind it. Because we should try to be inquisitive, we should try to find the reason. And once again, if we can't do it, ask experts, take their expert advice, their help, and then go for your decision, whatever you want to go for. And as I said, always analyze all the factors that we have discussed under asset allocation, and on the basis of that, then only you take your decision. And as I said, most importantly, always remember that high risk is always there whenever you see the interest or the returns also higher, because higher the risk, higher is going to be the interest or the profit or the returns. So immediately when you see any products offering high returns or high interest, immediately you should also remember that the risk is also going to be high in that case. And most importantly, as I said, try to follow legal transactions, regulated transactions, and most importantly, in Indian capital markets, don't do any cash transactions because they are banned. Also, in other markets in India, try to check regulations regarding cash transactions, because in many cases, there could be some limits, or there could be some rules, or there could be some regulations regarding cash transactions. So try to find it, try to understand it, and only then go for it. Or the best way is to go for the traditional channel, which is checks, demand drafts, or even we can today use a lot of new methods, something like a NACH or an NEFT or an RTGS or an UPI for that matter. So whichever product we are going to go for, what are the modes or what are the mediums that allow us the investment in which we can do that, is what we need to check, and on the basis of which then we can do our investments. And last but not the least, also try to learn from others, because we can definitely do our own analysis, we can study, we can do everything, we can ask experts, but we can also learn from others' experiences. And that is very, very important. And also it should not be just one-sided. We should also share our experiences, because if somebody has made a mistake, we can probably try to learn from it and try to avoid it. Similarly, if we have gone through a mistake, we can share our own experience with others and we can prevent them from making mistakes. So it should be a give and take. And that is why we should be a learning machine. And no matter what our age is, what our expertise is, we definitely should try and learn some things from others' experiences, or others, you can say, mistakes for that matter. So all this was basically what I wanted to share with you all through this session, which was an investors awareness program, and which was brought to you through the support of the Bombay Stock Exchange Investors Protection Fund. So once again, I would really like to thank all of you to be a part of this session. And definitely, I would hope that whatever information I shared through this session, you would definitely gain a lot of things, good things out of it, and which would help you to become, you can say, prosperous investors in the future once you start earning money, and ultimately also become investors in the future. So try to please remember all these things and use these things in a qualitative manner, so that you can take the best advantage out of this information that we tried to share today. And now, before I move to your questions, I would just once again like to remind you to please start filling up the attendance and feedback. Till now, 37 of you have filled up the attendance and feedback. So I can see around 62 participants. So others also, I would like to remind you, all the participants, including faculty members as well as students, all of you are requested to please fill up the attendance and the feedback. The link, once again, I would just share in the chat box. Any one of you probably who might have missed it out, I will just share it once again in the chat box. Please fill it up immediately. It's already time up. I'm just extending it for another 5 minutes. So please ensure that you fill up your attendance and feedback. Also, after we complete the questions, whatever you have and answers, I will also share the process for you all to get certificates for the session. And the people who fill up the attendance and the feedback are the only ones who would be getting these certificates. So please ensure that you fill it up correctly and your name appears in the attendance and the feedback. Now I hand it over to Neelu ma'am to take it further with regards to question and answers, and then we will move on to the winding up of the session. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir. I feel this has been an enriching afternoon. There was a little bit that we all know about investments and the possibilities for investing our money. But then, yes, in this short period of span of time that you've told us everything in a very systematic manner has kind of revised everything back for us. And I'm sure our students who probably are not from economics background, they are definitely going to learn a lot through this session. Are there any questions from any of the participants? You can either type them in the chat box or you can unmute and ask. Hamid, if there are any questions on the alternative channel, YouTube. I guess with such ease and with such simplicity that you've explained everything to us, sir, our students have really got a hang of it, and probably all what you've told them, they are now going to explore more on it. Any questions, anybody? Okay, we have a question. Avanti is asking about debt funds probably are low risk. Is that the question, Avanti?
Yes, ma'am. So I wanted to ask debt and what is low risk. I forgot what sir told us now.
I would just repeat for your benefit, Avanti. When you talk about mutual
debt.
funds, in mutual funds, debt or fixed income, as they are called, mutual funds are low risk. And on the other side, fixed deposits as a product which offer you interest is also low risk.
Okay.
Jaffin is probably asking about the Franklin Templeton case.
Unfortunately, I don't take any questions relating to specific any companies or any products. That's been a strategy that I use because we don't market any products during such sessions. So unfortunately, I will not be able to take that question. Anything specific that you want to ask Jaffin, you can please go ahead, but I refrain myself from answering any company related questions.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Jaffin, if you have any question related to investments anywhere, he can probably take up the question.
Nothing, ma'am.
Okay. How do small cases work? Could you also throw some light on Zerodha?
See, once again, I will not be taking questions on the company, but yes, I will take a question on small cases, of course. Small cases are basically, you can say, baskets of shares or baskets of investments that we can do. So rather than investing, let's say 5,000 rupees in one company or set of 3 companies or 4 companies, in that same amount, you can probably buy a basket of shares of a company, of different companies, of course, depending upon what kind of combinations they are offering. And that's where you may try to reduce your losses. You may try to diversify your risk related to your investments. And once again, specifically questions are coming on companies. So is it risky to have a demat account? Of course it is not, but through that company, once again, I would not be able to comment on that. So if at all any one of you have any company related questions, please feel free to connect with me on any of the social networking websites. Maybe LinkedIn is a very good platform where we could connect, and I'm able to answer your questions relating to specific companies, as you are asking someone about Franklin Templeton, someone about Zerodha, because as I said, this is not a correct platform to do that. So unfortunately, I will not be able to share any information about specific companies or products in this particular session. Any other general things or any other conceptual doubts or anything else that you would want to ask? Everything else is definitely welcome. Please don't ask questions relating to specific companies or products.
Are there any questions, students? You can unmute if you are not able to type. All right, sir. I don't think there are any more questions. Okay, there is a last question that I may take. Please tell us a bit about the RBI Retail Direct Scheme, allowing retail investors to open gilt accounts with RBI.
See, gilt accounts are basically government security related investments which you can do. And these kind of accounts are where basically you can invest in. And these, as they are being supported or rather backed by the Reserve Bank of India or basically the regulator of the banking industry, these are comparatively, you can say, safe investments and the best ones, or you can say the best benchmarked products or the safest products in the market. So definitely you can open these accounts and you can invest in gilts. Gilts, I repeat, are government securities. Gilt is a popular word or a conceptual understanding about government securities. And you can open these and you can, as I said, invest into these. There could be some bonds also which are offered by government or government agencies. And that is also where you may be able to invest through this particular account. Currently, no, it is not allowed for retail investors. It is only allowed for institutional investors.
Okay, thank you, students, and thank you, Meenakshi ma'am, for the question that you had asked. And I proceed towards the end of this session.
Ma'am, I'll just share the process to get the certificates and then probably we can wind up.
Yes.
Yeah, so I would just request once again all of you, I can see right now 45 of you have filled up the attendance and feedback. So I think there are around 15 more left who have not filled it out. So I repeat that only the people who have filled up the attendance and feedback will be able to get the certificates. So the process to get these certificates is to go to this website tomorrow at 5 p.m. Please note it down, all of you. Nilu ma'am, please, you also note it down so you could help out the students tomorrow. So once you go to this website, you will get this particular screen. I'll just share the screen also. So this is the screen that will open up. This is the home page of the website. Now, once you go to this, you will have to move to the right hand top side here, sign up. And once you go to sign up, you will get this box. I repeat, once you click on sign up, you will get this box that will open in front of you. On this, you will have to fill up the information that you have filled up today because it is going to be verified. So your name, your mobile number, your email address. In select program, you will select investor awareness program. In name of institute, your college name will appear here tomorrow 5 p.m. not now, because if you visit now, the list will not get updated. It takes approximately 24 hours for the information to get updated. That's why you are going to do this procedure tomorrow at 5 p.m. Then moving to select stream, you will be selecting your course or academic course that you're doing. So if the list has the name of the course, you select that course name. If it doesn't have, then you will select BSc IPF. I repeat, if the name of the course is not in the list, then you will select BSc IPF. That's a backup option. State and city, you don't have to enter anything because once you select the name of the institute, automatically it would be updated. So nothing to be entered in state and city. And last is you will have to enter a code. So the code is going to be today's date in DD, MM, YY format. I repeat, the code is going to be today's date in DD, MM, YY format. So I'll just type it out in the chat box. It is going to be 03 03092021. I've just typed it out in the chat box. This is the code that you will have to enter there, 03092021, which is today's date in DDMMYYYY format. And once you fill up all this information, click on sign up. All the information will be verified with the today's information that you have entered. So I repeat, please ensure that you fill up the information, because still I can see only 47 of you have filled up the attendance and feedback, and there were approximately around 60 participants that were there. So please ensure that all of you, including students and faculty members, also fill up the information so that you get the e-certificates tomorrow. So once you fill up this information entirely, you will have to click on sign up, and within 24 hours, directly the e-certificate would come to you on your email address. So that is the procedure that you will be following for getting the certificate. Once again, I'm just sharing the link that you need to visit tomorrow to get your e-certificates. Please ensure that you type the name correctly and get all the details. Also, please type it correctly. I'm just sharing the link once again in the chat box of the website that you have to visit tomorrow. I've entered the code as well as the website in the chat box. So please ensure that you visit it. Fill all the details correctly, first time only, because second time you will not be able to do the procedure. And I repeat, all this has to match with today's data. That is your attendance and feedback. So that's all from my side. And once again, I'd like to thank Neelu ma'am specially for taking up this initiative to have this session, and to all the other members also who probably pitched in with their support for conducting this session, and the college management and students, all of you, the participants, of course. So thanks a lot once again, and take care, stay safe and stay healthy. I hand it over now to Neelu ma'am to take it further.
Thank you so much, sir. It's all our pleasure that we've got to learn so much in such a short period of time. I request student Dhrumi, a member in the Women Development Cell of BTTC, to propose the formal vote of thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Neelu. Good afternoon, one and all present here. I am honored to receive the opportunity on behalf of our entire class to propose the formal vote of thanks. I would like to express our heartiest gratitude to our resource person, Professor Amog Gothoskar, for sharing his vast knowledge on Investors Awareness Program. It will be very useful for the upcoming investors. I would like to thank our principal of Bombay Teachers Training College, Dr. Bhagwan Balani, and Vice Principal, Dr. Mandeep Kochar, for always looking out for new and motivating ways in which the student teachers can learn and grow. My sincerest gratitude to Ms. Neelu Verma and Ms. Raju Talreja for organizing this wonderful session. I would also like to thank our student volunteers, Ms. Asfiya Afzal, Mr. Hamid Raza, Mr. Hamza Sheikh, Ms. Pratiksha Sawant, and Ms. Dhrumi Vora for their availability and endless support. Last but not the least, a very hearty thank you to all the participants and audience who have been with us till the very end of this session. I would request you all to kindly fill the feedback form. I also request the technical team to play national anthem. Thank you once again.
जनगणमनाधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मागे गाहे तव जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे।